Hi, it's Makaela here. Thanks for listening to my podcast. What you're about to listen to is an old episode of my podcast, The Midlife Awakening, which has now been replaced with the Deliberately Transformed Woman podcast. You'll still find some golden takeaways in these old episodes, but if you're the type of person who wants to discover and let go of the things that are holding you back in life by busting through fear and procrastination, overcoming imposter syndrome, and stepping into a life that is fulfilling, courageous, and intentional, then my new podcast episodes, starting from episode 21, are the ones you're looking for. You're listening to episode 15 of the Midlife Awakening podcast with Makaela Moore. Welcome to the Midlife Awakening podcast. I'm Makaela Moore, your host and certified transformation coach. I'm a 40-something woman who nerds out on brain science and believes every woman should be financially independent. This podcast is for women navigating their midlife who want to learn the secrets to unlocking their brain and freeing themselves from everything that holds them back so they can create lasting change in their lives, because everything is possible. Join me each week for conversations about the midlife and tips and tricks to hack your subconscious brain so you can deliberately transform your life and ultimately create your own financial security. First time here? Hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Enjoy! Welcome to episode 15. I am so glad you are here with me. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas with your loved ones and that you've had a relaxing week. Our Christmas day was a bit different than we've done in the past, but it was beautiful, it was simple, it was totally perfect with just very close family, and we've actually had a really fun Christmas week. Sydney was given a new Boston Terrier puppy for Christmas, so little Billy Moore has kept us busy and entertained at home this week. I'm sitting here recording this on New Year's Day, the first day of this brand new decade, and I've been reflecting. I always get very sentimental when I reflect back on a year or particularly on a decade that was. And this last decade is definitely no different. I was making some notes before actually hitting record on this, and I was getting very emotional thinking back over the last decade. I started this decade as a single 37-year-old working as a senior human resources advisor in Queensland Government. I was living on my own in an inner city, one-bedroom apartment, close to work. I was ambitious and I wanted more, particularly career-wise. I had already achieved so much in my life at that stage. I had a uni degree. I'd already travelled overseas on my own. I had already been married once in my early 20s. I had good friends and family around me. And of course, I had a great job that I loved. But the one big thing that was missing from my life at the turn of the last decade was my soulmate. He just hadn't turned up yet, but I wasn't about to give up hope. I was an expert on the RSVP dating app, and I think I must have clocked up over 100 first dates, and I've got to say most of them were a total waste of time. But each one of them showed me what I did or didn't want in my ideal partner. Each date got me one date closer to meeting my soulmate, which did finally happen in January 2011. And we didn't actually meet through internet dating, thankfully. We were actually introduced by a mutual friend. So much of my reflection upon the last decade is actually a reflection of the last 9 years since I met Graham, because that first year of the decade was really just a blur of the old mundane life that I used to live, even though I actually didn't think it was mundane at the time. But when I look back on it, for me now, it really feels like it was a mundane life. I was just all about work, sleep, eat, repeat, So in reflecting on the last 9 years, so much has happened. After finally finding my soulmate, we got married. I became a wife and a mother. We started our cabinet making business. We bought and sold and renovated several homes. We became property millionaires. I got made redundant from my government job. I taught Diploma of Business. I discovered my passion for brain science and became a coach and started a second business. I became an online entrepreneur. I went from being a city-dwelling singleton, living a very simple, uncomplicated life, to an acreage-loving mama and wife living a busy, full life. And honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. I discovered a love of Boston Terriers, and we now have 3 of them. And I started this decade as a 2-cat owner, and now I finish it as a 3-dog owner. I went grey, and I now need a standing appointment with the hairdresser every 5 or 6 weeks to get rid of that grey skunk stripe. I also started perimenopause. We bought a caravan and look forward to one day becoming grey nomads. I learned everything there is to know from a theory perspective on cabinet making, and I became a kitchen designer and chief estimator amongst everything else in our cabinetry business. I also learnt bookkeeping, and I did all our business accounts for a few years before outsourcing that. I've spent 7.5 years of my 40s in this last decade, and that has been eye-opening in so many ways for me. The personal growth and the conscious awakening that I've experienced has seriously been something I could never have actually predicted or even imagined at the beginning of this decade. I discovered myself for the first real time in my life. I spent many years happily single and, what I thought was finding who I really was. But it wasn't until I hit my 40s that the deep work really started. And I had no idea just how deep that would go. And to be honest, I'm not all the way there yet. I know I've still got so much work to do, so much more development and growth. And I can't wait for it. I'm so excited. I'm all there for it. I discovered stories and beliefs from my childhood that I never realized existed. And if you've listened to some of my earlier episodes or read my blog, you'll know that I have done really deep work on discovering and busting those bullshit stories that had been holding me back. I've also learned to let go of many things like the fear of judgment, the feeling of not belonging, the fear of rejection, my perfectionistic tendencies, expectations that I had placed on myself and others, my fear of failure and my fear of success, my attachment to certain things and stories and people. And I've really learned to let go of toxic people. I gave away so many things to make way for the new. But the things I have welcomed into my life have changed me so fundamentally and deep to the core. I am not the person I was even just 1 year ago, let alone at the beginning of the last decade. My conscious awakening has been massive, and it will be a forever ongoing thing. I have discovered my inner wisdom, my guiding light, my angels, and I have learned to trust in the universe and my own gut, my intuition. I've learned to trust that everything is happening for me and not to me. I've learned to use my voice and to speak my truth through my stories, and to use my knowledge and expertise to inspire and educate many women out there. I've learned to stop overthinking everything and to just be. I've learnt that everything is 100% possible 100% of the time. I once heard a saying, and it was that we overestimate what we can do in 1 year and we underestimate what we can achieve in 10 years. And I'd say, looking back at the 2009 version of Makaela, that as ambitious as she was, she had no idea of the ride she was in for over the next decade. No idea at all. So as I look forward to my next decade, I am choosing to think of them as the roaring 20s, and I will roar like the lion that I am, or the Leo that I am. The 20s will roar for all of us because we are all coming into our own, and the more we evolve as each year and decade passes, the more we step into our own power and we realize our own potential in this life. An exercise that I like to do each year when looking forward to the new year and planning out what I want to achieve is to reflect back on all the things that I have achieved over the last year, or in this case, the last decade. It's important for us humans to do, I suppose you'd say, a stocktake of our life before we can move on to the next chapter. We need to find the gifts, the lessons learned, recognize the achievements and challenges, and find gratitude in even the toughest of times. And the reason that this is so important, it's because if we don't stop to recognize what we have already done, we cannot see how far we have come or how much progress we have made. And if we can't see that, then our brains are stuck back at the beginning, not realizing that we are in fact moving forward, that we can do hard things, we overcome the tough shit, and that we have made progress. If we don't stop to reflect and recognize and acknowledge it all, then we can get stuck back there, not moving forward, because our brain is holding us back. So by doing this exercise, it allows us to effectively give our brains permission to do more and achieve more and overcome more and basically propel us forward to that next level of our life. So just take some quiet time to sit and reflect and write down all the things. If you're a journal writer, then your journal is the perfect place for this. If not, I suggest just grabbing a notebook to jot down all your reflections and the next step of visioning your future. Start by asking yourself questions to get your writing flow on. And these can be questions such as, the number one thing I do is I make a list of 25, and look, you can write however many you want. Could be 20, could be 50, who knows. But I just make a list of 25 things that I am most grateful for in this last year. And you'll be surprised at how easy it is to come up with quite a few. And once you get thinking of some, you'll end up, the flow, you'll get into that flow and they'll just start popping up. Number 2, you can use these as, say, journal prompts. Over the last year, my 3 biggest achievements were, number 3, when I achieved those things, I felt. Number 4, 3 things I would prefer to go back and change about the last year were. Number 5, what dreams came true. Number 6, what dreams eluded you. Number 7, what were your biggest lessons of the year? Number 8, what did you learn about yourself? Number 9, what transformations have you felt? Number 10, what did you let go of this year? Number 11, what did you make room for? Number 12, what went wrong this year? 13, what lessons came out of your bad experiences this year? 14, which moments or things made you truly happy this year? 15, what things were you proud of yourself for? 16, what good things came from negative experiences? And 17, what could you have done differently to have made this last year better or your best year yet? So once you've answered these questions, and look, you don't have to answer every single one. It would be great if you did, because it would really get your thoughts flowing, and you'd have all the ideas flowing on those reflections. And you'd probably uncover more lessons than you realise. So once you've answered those questions, if there's anything else you want to write about, then do so, because there's no limit on this, and only you need to see it. Nobody else needs to see this. You then need to let it all go. You need to stop holding on to all the wishes and the hopes and the regrets and failures and challenges. Just let them all go. Otherwise, they're gonna hold you back from achieving what you really want to achieve. But before you let them go, particularly with the things like the regrets and the failures and the challenges, just make sure that you note what the lessons were and what you're grateful for out of even the negative experiences. And to let them go, you can simply choose to let them go. There are some good meditations that you could choose to help you in this process, or you can simply just sit with your thoughts in silence and then just simply choose by instructing your subconscious brain to just let them all go. You can choose that. Don't beat yourself up over the things that you didn't achieve, or the things that went wrong or didn't go according to plan, because beating ourselves up has never done anyone any good. Instead of being harsh on ourselves, we need instead to realize that everything happens for us and not to us. Often things happen for reasons that we are not yet aware of. Everything that happens for us in life happens so that we can grow and evolve. Everything happens for a reason. And that's something, if you take one thing away from this, it is this, that everything happens for us in life so that we can grow and evolve. Now, this reflection exercise, it may take you a half an hour, it might take you several days. It doesn't matter, but whatever it takes for you is what it takes. But don't skip it, because if you do, you're going to miss a whole heap of lessons that you need to acknowledge. If we never recognize our challenges, mistakes, failures, lessons learned, then we are at risk of repeating them, or worse, going backwards. And if we don't learn from the past, not only will history probably repeat itself, but you're going to hold yourself back from moving forward and achieving things in your future. Which brings me to the future. We all think about our future, but how many of us actively plan our future with intention? I know lots of people who don't set any goals. They just wish for what they want their future to hold. They take no action, and they make no plans in order to move the needle of life forward or work towards achieving what they want in life. And it's a bit like the great road trip of life, really. If you know what you want, or in the case of the road trip, where you want to go, you plan out your journey accordingly. You set your destination and you map out the route that you're going to take and the provisions that you'll need for along the way. You prepare your vehicle and you plan out every detail of your trip. You visualize the drive, the scenery, the pit stops, and of course the destination. If you didn't do any of that and you just got in the car and started driving aimlessly, without a plan, without a map, but only with a dream of where you'd like to end up, do you actually think you would arrive at your desired destination without the map or the plan? Do you think you'd have the journey that you dreamed of along the way if you didn't intentionally plan it out? Life is exactly the same. If we just keep dreaming and wishing and hoping and praying for what we want without taking planned, intentional, inspired action, we will never reach that desired destination. Now, when planning in our future, it is easy to say all the things that you want or don't want, but It is another to purposefully plan it out and to make it happen. The first step in making it all happen is to decide exactly what it is that you do want and what you don't want for your life. List it all out, like literally do a giant brain dump. No ideas are too big or too small, just put it all down on paper. And then start putting it all into some form of order to create your future pathway. What do you want to experience in life? What achievements do you want? What memories do you want to create? Who and what do you want to let in or to let go of in your life? List them all out and don't be shy. Think big and dream big. And, if you want to create a vision board, then do that too. Creating a visual of your dream future is key to creating it. And it's not because it's pretty to look at. It's because there is a part of our brain that doesn't know the difference between the real and the imaginary. So when we continually visualize something, like our dream future or an achieved goal, then our brain begins to believe it, and therefore fear and resistance decline, and our brains then begin to co-create our goals and dreams with us rather than fighting against them out of that fear and anxiety and resistance. I'm not going to go into the goal setting and planning process in depth today because I am saving that in-depth stuff for those who join my group coaching program in February called Transformation Begins, where goal setting will be a module. But for today, I will say this. Once you have listed out all the things, when mapping them all out, start with the big things first and then fit the little things in and around those big things. If you just focus on the little things and you keep putting off the big things, then you'll never get to those big things. Don't be shy to dream big either. I talked a lot about dreaming big back in episode 4, so go back and have a listen there if you're feeling like your dreams are just too small or you feel that you're too afraid to dream big. Mapping out all of these can take an hour or it could take several days. Don't force it, but do give it the time and attention that it deserves. Truly create a vision for your life. Write a letter to you of 2019 from you of, say, in 2 years' time, from 2021, describing to current you how your life has changed, what you have achieved, what you've brought into your life, what you've let go, how beautiful life is in the future. Make it real with detailed description so that when you read it, you start to get the visual of what your life looks like in 2 years' time. You can also do this from the you of, 5 or 10 years into the future. But 2 is a good place to start now. The reason we do this is to trick our brains into thinking that those things have actually already happened because, as I said earlier, there is a part of our brain that doesn't know the difference between real and imaginary. So by tricking it into believing that you've already achieved that life, the brain starts to make changes that allow you to move forward without fear and resistance so that you can actually achieve those things. It's the most basic form of manifestation and it works because it is based in brain science, not some woo-woo, rah-rah bullshit. It is factual science, which is why I love this stuff so much because it is real. It's not just some fart in the wind concept. This goal setting and visualization process, however, is only a part of the whole equation. To make true, lasting changes in your life, you must change who you are being at your core identity. And so much of that comes back to our habits. As my coach, Jim Fortin, says, we don't get what we want in life, we get our habits. And our habits form the basis of our identity. And our identity is who we are being at any particular moment. So if you want to achieve anything, you must first be the person who has already achieved that. And that includes changing habits and our core identity. I'm going to save that. I'm going to go further into that in a future podcast episode. My husband read a quote to me recently and it said, "It's time for you to start taking the necessary steps to become that version of yourself that you can't stop dreaming about. This is exactly what I'm talking about. If you have a dream, you must be 100% responsible for making it happen, because it will not be handed to you on some silver platter. You will not be saved by some knight in shining armor. And things won't just happen because you want them to happen. You must take those steps to become that person that you want to be. And that starts with who you are being right now in this moment. One quick example of that would be that, if you set yourself a goal of starting your own business this year, if you don't become the sort of person who establishes a successful business through focused, intentional, disciplined work, then you probably won't achieve that. Because I don't know any entrepreneurs who spend the majority of their time watching Netflix or scrolling social media. They may do it from time to time to chill out, but they are intentional with it. They are structured in their time and their approach to life and business. So model the behavior of someone who is already doing what you want to do or achieve, and then you will start being that person. For the last couple of years, like many people, I have chosen a word of the year. In 2018, it was self-growth. This was the year that I began my conscious awakening, and 2018 had a profound effect on me. It was the year I discovered my love of brain science and coaching, and the year I qualified as a coach, which changed everything for me. I have always valued self-education and self-improvement, and this year was absolutely next level for me. 2019, my word of that year was simplicity. And in fact, that was for both Graham and I. We just set that as a joint word of the year together. We downsized many things in our life and our businesses while upsizing many others. But the key to it all was keeping things simple and easy. And this is something that we will definitely continue into 2020 and beyond. So my word for 2020 is evolve. For me, this means consolidating everything I have already learned and achieved and going big, completely up-leveling every part of my life, including my business, my health, my relationships, our wealth, our family time, and holidays, of which we have already booked 5 of them in 2020 because we are getting our priorities dead straight this year. I am making promises to myself for this year which, while I am evolving, I promise to keep uncovering my onion layers, to explore my vulnerabilities further, to really get to the core of who I am as a being, not just as a human being, but as the cosmic being that I am. I am promising myself that I will not let the fear of judgment, failure, inadequacy, or rejection hold me back from achieving anything I want in life. I will do hard things. I will get comfortable in the discomfort of change and growth, and I will be more compassionate and less judgmental. I promise to continue living my purpose here on earth with abundance and bravery, and to serve as many people as I can, helping them to discover their true self, their purpose, and to get unstuck and have their midlife awakening. I promise to deliver loads more free content via my podcast, my blog, my socials, and to help those who want to take that deep dive into their midlife awakening via my paid programs and one-on-one coaching. One big promise that I am making is consistency and showing up for you, which I have not been all that great at in the past because I was letting fear hold me back. I feel like I am entering 2020 feeling fearless. And maybe that should have been my word of the year, fearless, but I know that evolve is exactly the word I need for this bright, shiny new year and the beginning of this magnificent new decade for me. I wish for you, my dear listener, a truly wonderful new year filled with so much love, kindness, bravery, abundance, inspiration, and evolvement of your own. Thank you to those of you who tune in each week. I really, really, really appreciate your support. I promise I will continue bringing this podcast to you every week, and I have big plans for bright, shiny new content and some amazing guest interviews too. If you do enjoy my podcast each week, could you please do me a favour and go and leave a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts for me, please? It will help me to get my message out to other women who need to hear it, and it will help me tick off one of my 2020 goals of getting my podcast into the top 10 this year. I hope you can help me achieve that. All right. Happy New Year. Happy New Decade. Thanks for listening. Bye for now. And that, my beautiful friends, is another episode of the Midlife Awakening podcast. If you'd like more inspiration or to connect with other midlifers, head on over to my Facebook group, Deliberately Transformed with Makaela Moore. You'll find the link in the show notes. Until next time, cheers.